I managed a beachside cafe in Byron Bay when an American couple walked in at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. The woman immediately asked if we had Wi-Fi. I said yes. She asked for the password, ordered 2 flat whites, then pulled out 2 laptops. Her husband set up a portable monitor. Within minutes, they'd transformed our laid-back surf cafe into a satellite office. They worked through lunch. At 4 p.m., I mentioned we'd be closing soon for the afternoon. The wife looked confused. Closing? It's only 4. I explained our hours. Breakfast and lunch only, closed afternoons, because staff deserved downtime. She stared like I'd spoken Martian. But what about your revenue? You're losing 4 hours of business daily. I told her our staff needed time to surf, see family, live. She shook her head. That's why Australian productivity lags behind America. We don't measure our worth by GDP, and that's exactly why I make these breakdowns, to decode what culture really values beneath the surface. Most channels react to stories like this. I map the psychology behind them. If that difference matters to you, you already know what to do. She packed up, muttering about lazy work culture. Her husband left a review. Nice coffee, but closes during prime business hours. Recommend they learn basic economics, an American once told. Our hotel receptionist in Melbourne that Australians don't understand hustle. Another demanded our Oslo office stay open past 4 p.m. on Fridays because real businesses don't quit early. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a nation that's confused work with identity. Our Amsterdam office hired an American marketing consultant for 3 months. She arrived Monday with a detailed schedule. Meetings from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., working dinners twice weekly, Saturday strategy sessions. Our Dutch team manager looked at her calendar and said, "We don't do this." She insisted it was industry standard. He explained, meetings end at 5 p.m. No weekend work, no work emails after hours. She called it European inefficiency. By Wednesday, she'd scheduled a 7 a.m. call. Nobody joined. She sent angry emails about commitment issues. Our manager explained that 7 a.m. calls violated work-life boundaries. She argued that, in competitive markets, you do what it takes. He replied that our market was plenty competitive, but we valued sustainable work practices. She started working through lunch, eating at her desk, sending emails at 11 p.m. Colleagues felt pressured to respond. The manager finally pulled her aside. Your work style is creating stress. You're here to consult, not impose American hustle culture. She seemed genuinely baffled. But how do you stay ahead if you're not always available? He said, "We stay ahead by being rested, creative, and not burned out." She left after 6 weeks. Her exit report criticized our lack of professional urgency. We kept our 4:30 p.m. hard stop on Fridays. This level of cultural contrast doesn't show up in your feed by accident. I track these global work habits full-time so you don't have to. And I unpack them every week. The people who subscribe aren't chasing hustle tips. They're decoding how societies actually function. I worked front desk at a Barcelona hotel when an American businessman asked about our business center hours. I said 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. He asked if he could get 24-hour access for emergencies. I asked what emergency required printing at 3 a.m. He said, "I'm on New York time. I work when they work." I explained that our staff weren't on New York time and needed sleep. He offered to pay extra, 50 euros for overnight access. I declined. He escalated to my manager, arguing that real 5-star hotels accommodate business travelers. My manager, a patient Catalonian woman, explained that Spain values rest. "We have afternoon siestas for a reason," he scoffed. "That's outdated tradition. Modern business doesn't sleep," she replied. Modern business shouldn't require working through the night. He ended up working from his room, complaining loudly at breakfast about our limited amenities. His review said we lack ambition. We didn't lose sleep over it. A colleague at our Copenhagen design firm told me about an American freelancer who joined their team remotely. First video call, she appeared at 6 a.m. her time to match 3 p.m. Copenhagen time. She looked exhausted. They suggested adjusting the meeting time. She refused. "I'll adapt to your schedule." They insisted on finding middle ground. She said, "No, I'll prove I'm dedicated." 3 weeks in, she was sending work at midnight, apologizing for delays, offering to hop on calls at whatever time works. The creative director told her to stop. "We hired you for your skills, not your sleep deprivation." She seemed confused. "But I want to show I'm committed." He explained that commitment meant delivering quality work during reasonable hours, not destroying herself for availability. She admitted she thought European clients expected American-style availability. "Every article says you have to hustle harder than ever." He said, "Every article is wrong. Rest. Do good work." "That's the expectation," she cried from relief. Our Berlin software company hired an American developer. First week, HR explained our policy. 30 vacation days annually, required to use them all. He laughed. "I won't need that many." By month 3, he'd used 0 days. His German manager sat him down. "You need to take time off." He said he was building credibility. The manager explained that not taking vacation signaled poor life balance, not dedication. He promised to book something eventually. 6 months passed. HR sent a warning. Use 15 days by year-end or lose them. He panicked. "I can't take 3 weeks off. Projects will fall apart." His manager assigned his work to teammates, approved 3 weeks in August, told him to leave his laptop home. He tried bringing it anyway. Security confiscated it at his desk. Company policy during mandatory vacation. He returned tanned but anxious, immediately diving into backlogged emails. His manager stopped him. "How was your break?" He admitted it was hard to unplug, but acknowledged feeling rested. The manager smiled. "Good. Now do it again in December." He protested. The manager said, "You have 15 days left. Use them or we'll schedule them for you." He finally understood. Vacation wasn't weakness. It was required maintenance. His code quality improved noticeably after regular breaks. I worked at a Stockholm tech startup when an American project manager joined remotely. She mentioned she'd worked 5 years without a vacation longer than 3 days. Our Swedish CEO looked horrified. "That's not sustainable," she shrugged. "That's tech." He mandated she take 2 weeks off within her first 3 months. She resisted. "I need to prove myself first." He said, "You prove yourself by modeling healthy work habits." She finally booked a trip to Greece. The week before, she kept asking if anyone would need her. The CEO said no. She asked about emergency contact. He said, "There won't be emergencies." She asked if she could check email just once daily. He said absolutely not, and had IT block her access during vacation. She left reluctantly. She returned energized, admitting she'd forgotten what genuine rest felt like. But 2 months later, she'd slipped back into old patterns. Working late, skipping lunches, checking weekend emails. The CEO noticed, "You're reverting. Why?" She said she felt guilty when teammates stayed online longer. He explained that Swedish culture discouraged performative overwork. Staying late doesn't mean working harder. It often means working poorly. She started logging. Off at 5 p.m., her productivity increased. Our Melbourne office had an American consultant who asked to expense a laptop bag with a built-in charger and Wi-Fi hotspot for working during my weekend hike. Our finance person, a dry-humored Aussie named Greg, denied it. The consultant appealed. "It's a business expense. I'm staying connected." Greg replied, "Mate, if you're working during a hike, you're doing both wrong." The consultant argued that high performers maximize every moment. Greg said, "High performers know when to switch off." The consultant insisted his American clients expected weekend availability. Greg checked his contract. No weekend work required. Then don't do it. The consultant seemed lost. But what if something urgent comes up? Greg said, "It won't, and if it does, it'll wait till Monday." The consultant continued working weekends anyway, mentioning it casually in meetings. Nobody was impressed. Eventually, another colleague pulled him aside. "Mate, you're making everyone uncomfortable. You're working weekends, then acting like we should too. We don't do that here." He protested he never said that. The colleague explained, "You don't have to. You're creating pressure just by doing it." He finally stopped. Months later, he admitted he'd been performing workaholism to seem valuable. In America, if you're not always available, you're replaceable. His Australian teammates assured him that wasn't true here. "I managed a hostel in Prague when an American graduate student checked in for a 2-week research trip. First morning, she asked about the nearest co-working space. I suggested our common area. She said she needed a professional environment. I asked what her research involved. She said she was studying European work-life balance for her thesis. The irony was lost on her. She spent every day at the co-working space, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Other guests asked if she was okay. I checked in. She said she was maximizing her trip. I pointed out she was in Prague, one of Europe's most beautiful cities, and hadn't seen anything beyond her laptop screen. She said she'd sightsee after the work was done. I asked when that would be. She didn't know. Her last night, she broke down crying in the common area. Another guest, a Spanish teacher on holiday, asked what was wrong. She said she'd wasted her trip. She'd come to study work-life balance, but couldn't stop working long enough to observe it. The Spanish woman laughed gently. "That's your thesis right there." The student asked what she meant. The woman explained, "You came to learn why Europeans work less but live better. You're proving the answer by being unable to do it yourself." The student stared. The woman continued, "We don't work less because we're lazy. We work less because we know work isn't life. You've spent 2 weeks researching balance while living the opposite. That's your data." The student left the next morning. Months later, she emailed me. Her thesis concluded that American work culture wasn't superior productivity. It was fear disguised as ambition. Fear of being replaceable. Fear of being seen as lazy. Fear of proving you're not enough. She'd learned the lesson by living it. If this kind of cultural clarity hit you, imagine having it on tap every week. That's what subscribing gives you. I'll keep dissecting these global mindset shifts either way. But the people who stay 3 steps ahead, they're already subscribed. The difference isn't that Europeans work less. It's that we've agreed work doesn't define us. Americans are still trying to prove their worth through exhaustion. Watching them discover that work-life balance isn't laziness, it's sanity, is enlightening. Some learn. Some return home, convinced their way is better. But a few realize that maybe, just maybe, the rest of the world isn't behind. We've just chosen different metrics for success. Got more stories about Americans discovering the world doesn't run on hustle culture? Drop them below.